Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
If you're building something right now, maybe a startup, maybe something
A
else,
new project, yeah.
right? Or even just a new phase in your career,
Yeah.
and it feels, well, slower than you thought it would.
Definitely uncertain sometimes.
Yeah, maybe a bit messy. Look, you are an incredibly good company. That feeling of doubt, wondering if you're actually making progress or just
Spinning your wheels.
exactly spinning your wheels. It's pretty much universal for anyone creating something, from the ground up.
And that's precisely the feeling this deep dive is really designed to speak to. We've been digging into this fantastic article.
Yeah, it's called Starting Slow is Not Failing. 7 Truths Every Struggling Startup Needs to Hear.
Spot on. And it feels like it was written specifically for anyone, navigating that really challenging, sometimes isolating phase.
Absolutely. So our mission today, it's pretty simple, but I think important.
Yeah.
We're going to dive deep into these 7 truths from the article. We want to kind of pull out what really matters, challenge some common ideas, and offer you, the listener, a fresh perspective.
And some practical ways to think about your own journey. Ideas straight from this source.
Yeah. Let's jump in.
Let's do it. So the article, it gets straight to the heart of it, really. Tackles that feeling that you're somehow behind.
Oh, yeah. That feeling you look around, you see what others are posting, their growth number.
And you just feel inadequate, like you're falling short.
Right. That constant and honestly often painful comparison trap. You see the shiny end product or the big announcement.
Funding round, yeah.
And you think, how do they get there so fast? What am I doing wrong?
And that leads directly into the first really powerful truth the article highlights.
Yeah.
Which is, you're not behind, you're building.
Okay.
The core idea here is you're usually seeing the result of someone else's long and often kind of invisible building process.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
The article gives like the perfect example, Airbnb. Everyone sees this massive success now, right? But they point out that for years, the founders were just trying to make enough to pay the rent. They weren't behind then. They were like fundamentally building.
Building the platform, the brand, figuring out their market.
All of it.
Exactly. So you're not comparing your beginning or even your messy middle to someone else's polished end result. You're in that crucial phase.
Laying the foundation.
Yeah. The article uses that analogy like building a strong house. The most critical work. It happens underneath where no one sees it.
Which is actually a great segue into the second truth. Because we often define that building just by, visible growth.
Progress doesn't always look like growth. That's the second one. We get so fixated on the numbers going up.
Sales, followers, email list.
Right. Those metrics. If they aren't constantly climbing, it feels like stagnation, like you're not progressing.
But the article really pushes back on that brilliantly. It says, look, progress can be happening in ways a spreadsheet just won't capture. Well, are you getting better at talking about what you offer?
Right.
Is your value proposition clearer? Are you figuring out who your real customer is?
Or finding the right tools. Streamlining things.
Yeah. All that learning and refining. It's progress.
What's really interesting here is how the article suggests that what looks like a plateau on the outside.
Those flat numbers.
Yeah, those flat line numbers. It might actually be a critical pivot point internally. You might be refining, learning, adapting your whole approach.
Setting the stage for something bigger later, even if today's dashboard looks kind of boring.
Exactly. It's preparation, not just waiting.
That's a really helpful reframe. It's not just static, it's active repositioning.
Okay, so truth number 3 ties right into this, especially when things aren't selling.
Right. This one is, your offer might just need a new frame. The article's very clear. Slow sales don't automatically mean your core idea is bad. Don't just junk it.
Okay, so it might not be what you're offering, but how you're presenting it. Is that the idea? Precisely. The article pushes you to ask, is the message totally clear? Does someone get the value instantly? Like the second they see your headline. It gives examples, sometimes a small shift in wording, or a tweak to the pricing, or even just different packaging.
Like how it looks?
Yeah, how it's presented, that can completely change how people respond.
Wow, that's powerful, because the conclusion the article draws is you might not need to scrap everything and start over.
You might just need to reframe it.
Yeah.
Find a better way to talk about what you already have so it clicks with people.
It's iterating on the presentation, not necessarily throwing out the core concept.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that leads us nicely into the fourth truth, which tackles that nagging feeling that you're just not doing enough.
You're doing more than you think. It's so easy to get overwhelmed by the sheer size of the goal, right?
Silly.
And feel like your daily efforts are just tiny drops, not real progress.
But the article argues really strongly that all those small actions, they add up. Every single social media post you manage to get out.
Every email you send.
Every time you practice explaining your idea. The article stresses these are steps forward.
They're building learning, they're increasing your visibility, even just a little. They're gathering data.
Even if the data is just, okay, that didn't work.
Exactly. That's valuable data.
Yeah.
And it's building what the article calls your entrepreneurial muscle.
I like that. Muscle.
Yeah. It even suggests something practical. Try writing down everything you do for your project for, say, a month.
Just track it all.
Track it all. You might genuinely be surprised at the volume of work and the momentum you've actually built.
That sounds like a simple, but maybe really effective way to fight that inadequacy feeling. And speaking of inadequacy, let's revisit comparison with truth number 5.
Yes. Hard to escape that one. Comparison is the enemy of clarity, especially now, right? With social media feeds.
Oh, totally. It's relentless. Everyone just seems to be crushing it all the time.
And the article is blunt here. It says, look, you are seeing a filtered reality, highly curated.
You don't see the backstory?
You don't see the years of struggle, the debt maybe, the launches that bombed before the one they're shouting about. It's incomplete.
So the crucial point it makes is, who are you actually comparing yourself to?
Right. And the article argues the only really useful comparison is against your own past self.
How am I doing compared to last week, last month?
Exactly. How far have you come? Focus there. That brings clarity to your specific journey, not someone else's highlight reel.
Focusing inward, not outward. That's such a key shift.
Yeah.
Okay, truth number 6. This one tackles a big buzzword.
Hustle.
Systems over hustle. Yeah, the article definitely acknowledges that constant pressure, that message to just hustle harder.
Grind culture.
Grind culture, exactly. But it wisely points out the huge risk of burnout. It's just not sustainable for most people.
So the alternative isn't don't work hard, is it?
No, not at all. It's work smarter. Prioritize building systems.
Okay, like what kind of systems?
Well, the article gives clear examples. Can you automate some emails? Set up simple workflows for repetitive tasks. Create templates for things you write often. Things that save you from reinventing the wheel every time.
Precisely. The benefit highlighted is massive. Setting up even one small system can free up hours of your time. And maybe more importantly,
mental energy.
Exactly. That precious mental space you can then use for the really important creative strategic work.
Makes sense. It even mentions a specific resource, the free Startup Toolkit at Manx Design, as a place to find tools for this.
Yeah, a helpful pointer if you're feeling swamped by manual stuff and want to start building those systems.
Definitely worth checking out. Okay, and finally, the 7th truth. This one really reframes something terrifying for a lot of founders.
You haven't failed. You're iterating. This is such a powerful redefinition in the article. A launch that doesn't go as planned, a product that doesn't sell.
Yeah, the things that feel like absolute disasters.
Right. They're not presented as like the final verdict, the end of the story. They're feedback.
Just data. Feedback that teaches you something crucial.
Exactly. The article emphasizes that successful entrepreneurs, they don't see these things as failures in the ultimate sense. They see them as learning opportunities, really valuable ones.
So you haven't failed, like game over failed.
Yeah.
You've just learned what doesn't work, at least not right now, or not in that way.
Yes. And that knowledge is gold. It tells you what you need to change, how to build the next version better. You've just iterated.
Wow. Okay. So pulling all these 7 threads together, the main message from this article feels incredibly encouraging and practical too.
Yeah.
If your startup, your project, whatever it is, feels slow right now,
Yeah.
that's not a sign you're doing it wrong or that you're failing.
It's normal, often necessary. It's part of building, learning, adapting.
Refining,
exactly. The article really encourages giving yourself grace during this time. It calls it permission to be in the messy middle.
The messy middle, I like that phrase.
It's real, right? It's uncomfortable, but it's essential. The key thing they stress is just keep showing up. Keep doing the work, even the small stuff.
So the takeaway for you listening, if things feel slow right now, just take a breath. Remember that slowness, it is often part of the process. You're not failing.
You're refining, adapting.
You're building that foundation, that solid house we talked about right at the start.
And the article leaves us with this really beautiful image, an analogy to carry forward. The blueprint isn't broken. It's still being drawn. Meaning your current efforts, however small or slow they feel, they are actively shaping that future you're working towards. It's still unfolding.
That reframe alone feels like a weight lifted.
Yeah.
And just a final reminder,